Hello, Earth. I'm Alec Baldwin, TV star. You know, they say TV will rot your brain. That's absurd. TV only softens the brain like a ripe banana. So take it all the way. We've created Hulu. Hulu beams TV directly to your portable computing devices, giving you more of the cerebral gelatinizing shows you want anytime, anywhere, for free.
I only act out because I want your love. Dynamite!
Mushy mush. And the best part is there's nothing you could do to stop it. I mean, what are you going to do, turn off your TV and your computer? Once your brains are reduced to a cottage cheese-like mush, we'll scoop them out with a melon bowler and gobble them right on up. Oops. I think I'm drooling a little. Because we're aliens. And that's how we roll. Hulu, an evil plot to destroy the world. Enjoy.
$6 billion tons. For each American, it's about 20 tons. For people in poor countries, it's less than 1 ton. It's an average about 5 tons for everyone on the planet. And somehow we have to make changes that will bring that down to zero. It's been constantly going up. It's only various economic changes that have even flattened it at all. So we have to go from rapidly rising to falling and falling all the way to zero. This equation has 4 factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
But there we see an increase of about 1.3. The second factor is the services we use. This encompasses...
One of the most interesting stories that happened recently was in Los Angeles with a Mr. Joe Moshe, M-O-S-H-E, which people can Google and find themselves. On Thursday, he was surrounded by a SWAT team after he had called in last week to Dr. Truott's show on Republic Broadcasting and called in asking if there was a state's attorney or someone he could give evidence to, because he was apparently a biological scientist with a dual citizenship in Israel. And he had evidence that the Baxter had a Ukraine lab actually not making a vaccine but making a bioweapon that was going to cause a plague when the vaccine was released. Now, of course, True didn't believe him at first, but what happened is immediately after, the next day, a SWAT team, literally an army, surrounded his Volkswagen Beetle in West Los Angeles. They hit his car 4 times with pepper cannons, and then they sent in a robot after he just sat in the car, and apparently they were surprised that he didn't kind of cough and choke and come out. They sent in a robot to break a back window, and they tasered him and hauled him out through the windows. Apparently, because of his dual citizenship, he got extradited to Israel, and we haven't heard from him since, but...
Good morning, everybody. In a historic vote that took place this morning, Members of the Senate join their colleagues in the House of Representatives to pass a landmark health insurance reform package. Legislation that brings us toward the end of a nearly century-long struggle
to reform America's healthcare system.
Today in the controversial order of President Bush, earlier President Reagan, on abortion and how it should be treated by international organizations. Let's go to our senior political analyst, Bill Schneider. Bill, how is President Obama now trying to handle this really sensitive issue?
Well, Wolf, with an abundance of caution, to coin a phrase.
President Obama is upfront about his support of abortion rights.
I am pro-choice. I believe in Roe versus Wade.
But he deals with the issue, as his press secretary has said about a different matter,
Out of an abundance of caution.
In 1984, President Reagan issued a ban on government funding for international family planning groups that promote abortion. One of Bill Clinton's first acts as president was to lift the ban. President George W. Bush's first executive order was to reinstate it on January 22, 2001, the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. President Obama is lifting the ban once again, but Mr. Obama waited until after the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, when abortion opponents were marching on Washington. He tries to treat value differences with respect.
If you believe that life begins at conception, and you are consistent in that belief, then I can't argue with you on that, because that is a core issue of faith for you.
He says he wants to find common ground.
Surely we can agree on reducing the number of unwanted pregnancies in this country.
Will President Obama also reverse President Bush's ban on embryonic stem cell research?
I usually prefer a legislative process because those are the people's representatives.
Why such caution? Because President Obama saw what happened when his two predecessors acted boldly on social issues. The country became bitterly divided. Obama wants to turn the page.
The stale political arguments that have consumed us for so long no longer apply.
And speaking of turning the page, President Obama wrote in his book, The Audacity of Hope, that he wants to move beyond, quote, the psychodrama of the baby boom generation, a tale rooted in old grudges and revenge plots hatched on a handful of college campuses long ago, unquote. Wolf?
Now, we just got official word only seconds ago, Bill, that he has now formally signed that executive order, so that is now a done deal. Bill Schneider, thank you.
Our world was much larger then. The forest went on forever. We tree spirits nurtured the harmony of all living things, but our closest friends were humans. Then, as sometimes happens, the balance of nature shifted, and Hexus, the very spirit of destruction, rose up from the bowels of the earth and rained down his poison. The forest was nearly destroyed. Many lives were lost, and the humans fled in fear, never to return. Most think they didn't survive. It was only by calling up the magical powers of nature that I was able to trap Hexus inside an enchanted tree and save Fartgard.